Greetings and welcome from the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. As you can hopefully see over my shoulder, I'm at the MGM Grand Buffet, and I'm going to be talking about Total Tech Summit, which I'm here to cover with my good friends Dan Farisi and Craig McCormack. We're going to go in and have some breakfast and chat with them about what the show's all about. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. So we're here at Total Tech Summit, and I just had breakfast with two of my best friends in the industry, Craig McCormack and Dan Farisi. Craig and Dan, thank you for joining me just for a couple of minutes. Tell me what you think of Total Tech Summit. Why are we here now?
I think Total Tech Summit is a premier level networking event for those in the technology trades, not just those in commercial AV and security, but also in consumer electronics. It's an opportunity to bring really the best of the best, most successful firms together for networking, for thought leadership, for education, to connect with key vendor partners. It's just one of those opportunities to bring the family together, the technology trades family together, but also just to have that mind sharing that only happens when you have the best, brightest members of the industry in one place.
Now, Dan, you were here last year, and you've done a few of these before, as I have. Craig, this is not the first one for you, but you weren't here last year. This is a new one for you, right?
Right.
Tell me about what you're looking forward to, what you're thinking about.
Yeah, so I have been here in the past representing Commercial Integrator. This will be my first Total Tech Summit representing security, sales, and integration. So I'll be learning a whole bunch of new things on the security side of things compared to the commercial AV side. Probably taking away a lot of things that we can write about on our website and cover in future issues and on future posts.
Now, one of the coolest things about this event is actually the speed dating, or I don't know exactly what you call it, but it's the opportunity for manufacturers and end users and buyers to get together in a more intimate fashion and chat with each other about what their specific needs are. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Dan, and what your opinions of that are?
Yeah, I think those meaningful connections, however brief they might be, that's something people come to Total Tech Summit for. We use an app to make sure people are paired with those they really want to connect with. So you're not going to be paired with someone whose technology is completely irrelevant to your business, or an integrator who's not interested at all in your technology. We try to do this in a really mindful way to make sure that whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you can either deepen a relationship with an existing vendor or integrator partner, or forge a new one, because it's going to be tailored in a way that makes sure your business and its focus and its strengths and its goals are foremost in mind.
That's great. So let me ask the two of you, if people want to get more information about attending this in the future or about with what you're doing and writing, and we are having breakfast if you're not familiar with the sounds, and the dirty table and everything else, tell me how people can reach out to you. First you, Craig, and then you, Dan.
I'm on Twitter, I guess it's now called X, at Craig McCormack, MacCormack, for those people looking for me. Total Tech Summit is available at totaltechsummit.com for anybody who wants to come to next year's shows. And Dan, how about yourself?
Sure, you can find me at Dan Farisi Edit on Twitter. You can also find me on LinkedIn, where I tend to be very active. But of course, if you want to find out information about Total Tech Summit, you can look up Total Tech Summit on the various social channels, or just go to totaltechsummit.com. I believe we're going to be in Texas next year. Really, really excited to see everyone next year, and of course this year in the coming days, as we bring together the foremost in the technology trades for Total Tech Summit 23 here in Las Vegas.
And it's my pleasure to kick off this year's event here at the MGM Grand. I'm going to go over the schedule for this year in a bit, but first I wanted to cover a few orders of business. For starters, I'd like to thank all of you for joining us for this year's Total Tech Summit. This is always my favorite conference on the calendar. It's a perfect time of year to reflect on how business has been doing in 2023 and pick up what we hope are some valuable insights and advice from your peers that you can consider for 2024.
In the form of really defining and documenting your processes and your standards so that they're understood by all. And what I mean by that is the processes that you, like, for example, the steps that you go through when you complete a project. You should do it the same way every time. There's some jobs that you can take a few steps out, you have to add a few steps in, but there's a standardized process that you go through that's a step-by-step workflow, and that should be documented, worked out with your team, and then documented and followed.
I've worked in companies where not just departments are so siloed, but individuals are siloed. I do my work, you do yours, we're not going to do the same thing, and I'm just going to do it the way I know how to do it, right? And I think with redoing the culture, getting a lot more in sync with where we're going, where our company focus is going, it's allowed everyone to work more as a team. And it's been really fun collaborating with everyone, collaborating with someone that I may not talk with every day, but I've got questions about something I don't quite know much about in our industry. And it's nice to have a large enough company where I feel comfortable, where I can go do that. Any of my employees can reach out to anyone else and bring them in and collaborate. So I think bringing the group together, having one main focus for the company has just been incredible.
We brought together a fantastic group of panelists who have strong opinions and insights into this. We're delighted to be joined by Steve Greenblatt, who is president and founder of Control Concepts, David Danto, who is director of emerging technology with the IMCCA, and Alexis Leroy, who is director of audiovisual services with Midpoint Technology Group. And we're going to get started right now. So thank you so much, Steve, David, Alexis, for joining me. Let's start by defining our terms. I think that might be a good place to start. And let's begin with end-to-end solutions. When we talk about end-to-end solutions, what does that mean, and what are some of the pluses and minuses? And thinking about pluses, for example, it could be simplicity, proven outcomes, things like that. Some of the drawbacks might be a lack of substitutability, limited options, etc. Let's define our terms and then talk about some of those pluses and minuses. And whoever would like to start, feel free.
So a single end-to-end solution, the way I would look at it is that it's a one brand that provides all of the pieces and components that allow from an input to an output for the most part. But we also look at it not only from the AV side, but also from the control side. That's really where I'm speaking from. And many of those solutions are meant to be more turnkey, where products are meant to snap together. They're meant to be more of an out-of-the-box solution. Whereas and that's considered to be an ecosystem, but that can be looked at as a closed ecosystem, whereas an open ecosystem is more of that interoperability as you're discussing, where you can substitute products. And they'll still continue to work together through what's called an API, which is an application programming interface that's from a control standpoint. But it allows more creativity, it allows more customization to meet clients' needs, and integrators are really good at that.
David, Alexis?
Well, I don't have to tell the audience, the people here, we work in a pretty weird industry. And I've been doing this for a number of decades. We would have clients that would buy dozens, if not hundreds, of rooms. And the integrator involved would first have to do something called staging, right? Everybody knows what I'm talking about? You know about staging? Which is where you put all the gear together in a room and first figure out if it actually works. That's a very strange way to have run a business for a very long time. So the need for, why don't I buy a solution that I can take out of the box, plug in, give it power and data and be done, got rid of all the need of that staging and the custom programming and everything else. So the upside was scalability, moving us from an AV world to an IT world. The downside was you lose some of the creativity, you lose some of the functionality, and you lose the customization that comes in. So that's really the trade-off, is scale versus customability, and the number of people it takes to manage one versus the other. That would be my thoughts on it.
Agreed. I think that integrators have to decide which type of integrator they will be as far as that goes. Will they be an integrator that is doing a lot of customization, which probably costs more and requires more time and energy to do? Do you have the customers who will be able to follow along with that? Or will you do, people frown upon kind of cookie-cutter solutions that are easier and can be done quicker. And you have to decide between one you want to be, or how much of one will you do and how much of the other will you do. I think that whichever one you were or are, I think COVID really put a wrench in everything for a lot of us, and we've had to kind of mix and match and do some things that we probably had not intended to do at the beginning as far as your strategic plan. So I think those are really good points.
You're also just basic availability.
Yes.
What did you get?
Yes. Yes.
Well, that's it for this week's UC Weekly News here from the MGM Grand. What? That's not it for this week's Weekly News? We have another conference taking place here on the west coast of the U.S. this week, and a friend is covering it? Okay, well, let's go to the friend. Go ahead, let's hear from you. What's up, Neil?
David, hi. I'm not ready yet. I'm still in my room doing my hair and makeup. It's great to be back on a show with you. It's like getting the old band back together. But you don't want to see my hotel room. You want to see Microsoft Ignite. Let's head over to the show. Now, there's going to be loads of talk about Copilot. And apparently, if you say it 3 times, magic happens. So let's try it. Copilot, Copilot, Copilot.
There we go, there is Copilot in action. Here we are at the Seattle Convention Center. You see it's dark behind me now. We've just had the first full day of Microsoft Ignite. The keynote from Satya, he had Jensen from NVIDIA on stage with him. The word of the day, well, it's Copilot. Who would have thought it, eh? Kevin actually put a poll out on LinkedIn the other day. How many times would Satya say Copilot in his keynote? I lost count, but it certainly was the theme for the whole event so far. Loads and loads of cool updates, loads of stuff about processors, data centers, and Azure, but we're not really interested in that. In the world of UC, it's all around Microsoft Teams. 320 million users now signed up to Microsoft Teams. The new version that they're talking about, faster, less resources, more capabilities, and that's the excitement around the Teams desktop. Loads of obviously stuff around Copilot actually integrating into that, but from the Teams Room point of view and the UC and video point of view, loads and loads of cool updates. The theme really tended to be around the Windows MTR platform. Loads and loads of features coming. It's certainly the feature-first platform from Microsoft's point of view where all of the cool stuff is coming. We heard about intelligent speakers, this idea around meeting recaps, that you can just go in and get a recap on the meeting. But the other really interesting thing around the intelligent speakers is the ability to be able to identify different speakers in the meeting room. Traditionally, you've just been able to see meeting room 1 and get a transcript of that. But the idea that we can now train the AI and train Teams to specific people's voices and then break them out. I'm guessing you're going to have to train it, read something to it, and then it will then work out that's Neil, that's David, that's whoever. And then we'll actually be able to break out that from a single meeting room, the different people that are interjecting into that. That then led nicely into another feature that they were talking about in the Teams breakout this morning, which was around this idea of noise suppression. Noise suppression is nothing new. It's been on hardware. I talked about it in a previous life, and all these ideas of being able to suppress noise. But what Microsoft are doing, obviously it's going to be in the cloud, but what Microsoft are doing is being able to identify a specific voice and then just laser focus in on that one voice and block out everything else. Again, that idea of training the algorithm, training the AI to say, okay, that is Neil speaking, that's all I want to hear. I don't want to hear all the other people behind him that are chatting away in an open plan office. So that's really interesting, exciting, coming into the intelligent speaker piece. That's going to be coming in Teams and Windows. Obviously, IntelliFrame was talked about a lot, and again, the idea that you can break out a meeting room, either using IntelliFrame in the cloud, break it out to a single segment square, or some of these devices that can do IntelliFraming on the hardware itself, and then actually be able to give you separate windows within the frame of Teams. So again, that's really cool and exciting. Coming to Teams MTR for Windows. The other thing that they talked about was the idea around the beaconing. Traditionally, it's always been Bluetooth, so you've had to have Bluetooth on your laptop when you come in. It will then detect your Bluetooth, and then you can then pair your laptop to that MTR device in the room. But now they're doing it ultrasonically, so not only do you get it in more closer proximity, so you don't get 2 or 3 rooms popping up and asking which one you want to join, but the idea that we can actually then proximity join via an acoustic beacon, an ultrasonic beacon in that room, so you don't have to have Bluetooth on your laptop enabled, and you don't then have to get loads of rooms popping up. The other really cool thing, which is again a traditional breakaway from the team's room, was Matt Taylor was on stage talking around this expansion into BYOD, bring your own device, bring your own meeting, whatever you want to call it. The French call it BYOD. Confuses the heck out of me. Anyway, bring your own device. The idea that they brought out is not only can we start to track the usage of bring your own device, and you can say, okay, this room's being used a lot, maybe we should upgrade that to a full MTR, this room's not getting used at all, we'll leave it. But the other new feature they talked about was this thing called shared display mode, shared display mode is a bit like PowerPoint presenter mode. If you've used that, when you share your PowerPoint presentation, you get all your notes, you get to see what slides are coming up on your display, but on the actual front of room display, you just get the PowerPoint slides. Similar concept with Teams, when you plug in an external monitor and you plug in an external camera and speakerphone, it will then think, okay, you're in a meeting room, so all I'm going to do is share the video component of Microsoft Teams in the front room display so that you don't get all the text messages popping up in front of all of your colleagues saying this meeting's dragging on a bit, maybe we should call it short. So that's really cool, and another interesting feature coming into that BYOD space around Microsoft Teams room. Get loads of other cool stuff. They were my takeaways for today. It's been a great event. I'm really enjoying my first Ignite. Seen loads and loads of cool and friendly faces. Caught up with Sandhya. Did a shoot with her. Rupam from Frost. We're going to do some stuff with her. And Seattle is an amazing place. I haven't seen them throwing any fish yet, but there's still time. Let's throw it back over to maybe hotter clients, to you back in Vegas, David, and I can't wait to do a full recap with you when we're back at our desk.
Thanks very much, Neil, for helping me cover the west coast of the U.S. You're in Seattle, I'm in Vegas. Together we got it covered. Back together again. And I think we'll chat next week in studio to see how things are going. But for now, that's it for this week's edition of Weekly News. Thanks very much for joining us. We'll see you next week.